Before the advent of modern science, our ancestors utilized mythology to navigate the psyche. Analytical psychologist James Hillman proposed that these ancient stories are actually the psychology of antiquity, deliberate maps of the inner world. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, recorded on these clay tablets, the king is 2/3 divine and 1/3 human. This ratio represents the precarious balance between spiritual essence and the human mind. His journey provides a functional template for developing human consciousness. Disconnected civilizations across the globe developed nearly identical narrative structures. From the Maya to the Sumerians, these cultures encoded specific instructions on how to face grief, confront fear, and integrate the darkest, most hidden parts of the self. These stone-carved narratives functioned as essential survival manuals for the mind. They provided the specific psychological architecture required to withstand the volatility of being human. Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes identifies the collapse of this system as the injured instinct. When we prioritize hyper-rationality over our primal nature, we actively suppress the internal defense mechanisms that once protected our spirit. This leads to the normalization of the abnormal. By absorbing compounding stresses and societal pressures, our internal systems continually reset their tolerance thresholds until they reach the point of structural failure. Historically, communal rites of passage provided the scaffolding to process these heavy loads. The modern eradication of these rituals has stripped away our psychological support structures, leaving us vulnerable. Starved of its natural expression, the primal instinct manifests as an inner predator, an unintegrated shadow that turns our own vital energy into cynicism and exhaustion. Modern epidemics of chronic anxiety and soul famine represent the predictable consequence of a society attempting to navigate the complexities of the human mind without its historical maps. This vacuum is most visible in modern combat veterans. They return from profound, life-altering experiences to a society that offers no symbolic language to process what they have seen. While clinical language focuses on symptoms, these individuals often suffer from moral injury, a deep rupture in the inner meaning and symbolic structures that once allowed them to make sense of their world. Traditional societies relied on specific warrior purification rituals to address this. These rites offered a structured pathway for veterans to process horrific experiences and reintegrate into the community. Without these symbolic gates, we abandon our wounded in a psychological liminal space, forcing them to navigate the underworld alone and unguided. Carl Jung observed that the psyche automatically relies on ancient archetypal patterns to survive and process overwhelming trauma. Joseph Campbell later codified these patterns as the monomyth, identifying a universal blueprint for psychological transformation. In every mythic cycle, descending into the darkness to confront the shadow is a mandatory phase of psychological growth. This process suggests that trauma and the resulting ordeal are the necessary thresholds for integrating the fractured parts of the psyche into a unified whole. These mythological structures still dominate our modern stories. We continue to project the monomyth onto our most popular narratives because they mirror the mind's internal survival process. Confronting the shadow in the metaphorical underworld is the mind's built-in mechanism for profound transformation. True psychological healing is not a return to the naive state that existed before a trauma occurred. Through the archetype of the wounded healer, we see that deep psychological wounds, once integrated, become a source of unique wisdom and strength. Reclaiming one's instinctual nature requires an active acceptance of the life, death, and life cycle. It is a process of integrating the wounded parts of the self through deliberate self-compassion. Enduring the descent and accepting our scars is the only path toward forging a newly expanded and resilient identity. This journey toward integration is not just a personal requirement, but a systemic necessity for our culture. Restoring our lives through ancient myth provides a resonant language for healing that clinical terminology cannot offer. A moment of wonder. These ancient stories represent humanity's foundational framework for internal order. By reclaiming them, we restore our collective